When you picture the New York City skyline, chances are this is the first building that pops into your head. But the Empire State Building is so much more than just an icon. It's an economic masterpiece. And let me tell you, for a building that's nearly a century old, it is an absolute money-making machine with an incredible story of genius design, crazy resilience, and some seriously clever business moves.
Okay, so let's just kick things off with a number that might actually blow your mind. We're talking over $500 million in revenue every single year. Now, to put that into perspective, that's more than many entire companies make, let alone what most brand new modern skyscrapers pull in today. It's just an astonishing figure for a building that's been around for almost 100 years. And that really brings us to the big question here, doesn't it? What is the secret sauce? How on earth did its designers create something so powerful, so profitable, that it's still winning the money game a century later? All right, let's get into it.
To figure this out, we've got to jump back in time to the Roaring '20s. New York City was absolutely booming. Steel frame construction was changing the game, and with space on Manhattan Island being, limited, the only way to build was up. And this kicked off this insane competition that everyone called the race to the sky.
So into this race step our main characters, two businessmen, John Raskob and Al Smith. Now, they didn't just want to build the tallest building for bragging rights. No, they saw a massive financial opportunity. Their goal was crystal clear from day one. Build the world's tallest building, sure, but more importantly, make it the most profitable building ever.
But here's the thing. You can't just build straight up in New York City. There was a catch. The designers first had to solve this major puzzle. A city building law that basically dictated the shape of every single skyscraper from that time.
And this rule was called the setback rule. Basically, it drew this imaginary angled line from the middle of the street, sloping upwards, and your building was not allowed to cross that line. The whole point was to let some sunlight actually hit the sidewalks, but for architects trying to build as big as possible, it was a huge headache.
So, at first glance, you had two choices. The obvious one was to just build a kind of pyramid shape right up to that line, but that was a trap. See, it gave you tons of cheap, dark office space at the bottom and created an absolute nightmare for the elevators. The real money, the profitable solution, was a straight tower. That design prioritized the premium, high-floor offices with those killer views, exactly the kind of space top executives would pay a fortune for.
So here's where they got really clever. The designers found a loophole. The law said that if a tower's footprint shrank to just a quarter of the total land it was on, it could then shoot straight up, past that setback line, basically as high as they wanted. It was genius. They sacrificed a little bit of cheap space on the lower floors to unlock a massive, super profitable tower on top.
Okay, so design puzzle solved, but now came the next challenge, and it was maybe even more daunting, building this absolute behemoth at a speed nobody had ever seen before, all while sticking to a super tight budget.
And this timeline, man, it was no joke. Back then in New York real estate, there were pretty much only 2 big days a year when companies signed leases. If they missed their May 1st, 1931 deadline, the whole building would sit empty for months, losing an insane amount of money. They had just over a year to get it all done. The clock was absolutely ticking.
So what they did next was just an absolute masterclass in project planning. They used pre-made, identical steel parts that they could assemble like a giant kit. They literally built a railway on the construction site to move materials around faster. They even set up restaurants right there inside the unfinished building so workers wouldn't waste time going out for lunch. And the result? The building was rising at this mind-blowing speed of more than 4 floors a week.
And the final result of all this insane efficiency was just staggering. Not only did they finish on time, but the whole project came in at just $25 million. That was a full $10 million under its original budget. That kind of saving was just unheard of back then. It was a total triumph.
So the building was ready. A marvel of design, a marvel of construction, finished on time and way under budget. Everything was perfect, right? Well, just as it was opening its doors for business, an unforeseen disaster hit the entire world economy. Yeah, the Great Depression. It was a complete and utter catastrophe for the project. That booming economy that had fueled this whole skyscraper race, gone. Companies weren't looking for new offices, they were going out of business. And the demand for millions of square feet of premium office space just, poof, it evaporated. The reality on the ground was just devastating. The building couldn't even fill a quarter of its offices. It got this really painful nickname, the Empty State Building. Can you imagine? The entire project was teetering on the edge of bankruptcy.
But remember how their ambition from the very beginning was about more than just offices? Well, one of those extra features, something they'd planned as just a cool amenity, was about to become the building's financial savior. They pivoted, and they pivoted hard. They started marketing the heck out of the observation decks on the 86th and 102nd floors. For just $1, anyone could come and see New York City from a viewpoint nobody had ever experienced before. And you know what? It was an immediate, massive hit.
In its very first year of being open, the observatory sold over 1 million tickets. 1 million! All through the 1930s, that tourist attraction became the building's main source of income. It generated just enough cash to keep the lights on and pay the bills, until, finally, the office market started to recover. It was an absolute lifeline.
And you know, that spirit of adapting and finding new ways to make money didn't stop when the Depression ended. It became a core part of the building's DNA, and it's what allowed it to evolve into the diversified financial powerhouse that it is today.
I mean, a perfect example is the story of the tower's iconic mast. The original idea for it, you're not going to believe this, was a docking station for airships. Yeah, a cool, futuristic idea that never actually worked. But then, when this new technology called television came along, that mast turned out to be the perfect spot for the most valuable broadcast antenna in the world, beaming signals across the region and generating millions in leasing fees.
Okay, so let's fast forward to today and see how the money actually breaks down. As you'd expect, office rentals are now the king, bringing in about 69% of the revenue. But check this out. The viewing platforms, the very thing that saved the building during the Depression, still pull in a massive 26% of its income. And the antennas kick in another 6%. It's a truly diversified money machine, and it just proves how valuable it is to have more than one way to make a buck.
So that original gamble, betting on a prime location right in the middle of Manhattan, well, you could say it paid off. Big time. After nearly a century of adapting and innovating, the building is now worth over $2 billion.
When you really step back and look at the whole story, it's about so much more than just a tall building. It's a testament to a design that found a clever way around the rules, a construction process that just rewrote the book on efficiency, and maybe most importantly, a business model that was tough enough to look a historic crisis in the eye and turn it into a brand new opportunity.
And that really leaves you with a final thought, doesn't it? In our world of fast-paced startups and short-term thinking, what can we all learn about building something that truly lasts? From a skyscraper that was designed to win not just for a year, but for a century and beyond.